President Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, was in court this week following last week's raid on his office and hotel room. Cohen's legal team filed a motion to review the material seized in the raid. His team also requested that independent arbiters be appointed to review what evidence collected may fall under attorney-client privilege. Here to discuss the outcomes of the court hearing and what they mean are Talking Points analysts Michael Furnari and Brandon Ross. Both of you, thanks so much for joining us. Brandon, we'll start with you. Now, Judge Kimball Wood last week handed down two rulings. I think they may have been quite tough to follow for people. Can you just break them down for us? Okay, so the first ruling was regarding basically first dibs on the evidence. Michael Cohen's legal team wanted access to the files first so they could get a review and give their own opinions on what falls under attorney-client privilege. Judge Wood said no to that ruling, and then they filed another motion to have an independent arbiter, specifically a special master, look over the materials, but the judge isn't committal yet, and they will decide that on the next court date on May 25th. And what exactly does that mean, an independent arbiter, so in terms of this case? There could be two different types of independent arbiters we see. What Cohen's team is requesting is called a special master. That is a special lawyer requested by the defendant, and each side, both Michael Cohen's team and the prosecutors, will select 3 or 4 names for the judge to pick from if the special master route is the route that they choose. If they don't go that route, the judge could also use what is called a filter team. It's a team of other prosecutors not related to this case, and they would go over the files and determine what, if any, would fall under attorney-client privilege, basically to determine what is allowed to be used by the prosecution.
And you touched on two of the biggest legal themes that the case is following, the fact that there is this independent arbiter that could come into play, and also the attorney-client privilege. So, Mike, when we talk about attorney-client privilege in this case, how does that directly link to President Donald Trump?
Yeah, so the link here is pretty clear. Now, of course, Donald Trump is Michael Cohen's most obvious, one of his few clients. So whatever comes out in this case is going to be revolving around President Trump most likely. Now, of course, President Trump is not directly involved in the case, as the charges Michael Cohen is facing are for mostly financial fraud and things of that nature, and kind of mistakes with wire transfers and that type of thing. However, one of the key points of contention here is the Stormy Daniels payoff. Now, depending on how much information is made available to the public, I think it could be there could be some information coming out here that's very damaging to President Trump.
And when it comes to that attorney-client privilege, do you see that being a continuing discussion and the fact that that will be exploited by that legal team?
Absolutely. That's going to be really key, because if it's up to a judge what exactly comes out, that could be something that favors President Trump, it could be something that doesn't. And right now, it's really very difficult to say, because we don't know what exactly, what files, what documents they're looking for right now.
And real quickly, before we end here, what do you think the next step is?
I think the next step is obviously we wait until May 25th, and that's when the judge will finally rule on whether a special master or a filter team will see through this case, and we might see what the prosecutors use in court.
All right, Brandon Ross and Michael Furnari, thanks so much for joining us.